All right, let's make a Spider-Man costume. Oh my god, I'm sweating. Hey everybody, my name is Troy, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a custom Spider-Man suit. This is going to be a relatively simple, basic, quick tutorial on how I did this. Nothing really that complicated. It's actually super simple. I wouldn't call this a beginner's tutorial, and I wouldn't call this a budget tutorial. It's not super expensive, and it's not super difficult. So I guess we could call this like a relatively intermediate, level 2 Spider-Man costume for a decent price, I guess you can say. I guess it depends on what you consider cheap and what you consider budget. So this is a sub $100 Spider-Man costume that is fully custom with full-on Faceshell lenses, sub-printed dye. Is that what it's called? I don't think I said that right. So I'm going to talk about the pattern process, like how I designed the pattern, and then I'm going to talk about the ordering process from ZentaiZone, because this is essentially, you can treat this as a ZentaiZone review for the custom suit printing. And then thirdly, I'm going to talk about how to make the face shell and the lenses for relatively cheap, and they're magnetic. And yeah. So this is the pattern file that I'm using. You can get your pattern file plenty of different places. There's like a million different pattern creators on Instagram and the RPF and Etsy and all that different stuff. So just look around. If you're looking for like one that currently exists, there are going to be a million of them. If you're looking for one that wants to do a custom thing, that might be a little bit pricier. So I'm going to talk about how I made one myself without a ton of like artistic experience, because I'm not really much of an artist, and I'm not really great at that kind of thing. So what I did is, there's this forum called the RPF. It's called the Replica Prop Forum, and on there's this guy. His name is Ken Landrum, and he gives out so many amazing prop resources and files for free. He's a really great guy, and one of the things that he does is he's posted free Photoshop files for 3 different movie suits for Spider-Man. So there's the Raimi suit, the MCU suit, and the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. So you can download those files, and in Photoshop, if you have Photoshop, you're able to go through and edit them layer by layer. A bit of a disclaimer: if you're going to do this, you cannot, I cannot repeat this enough, you cannot sell this pattern if you're going to be using Ken Landrum's files. He worked really hard on these things to give them for free. So please do not make money off of it. With that said though, so this is the final pattern file. As you can see, it's kind of a mishmash of a bunch of different Spider-Man suits of the past. So then what you want to do is you want to save it as whatever format you want. I'm going to go with JPEG. And then what you want to do is you want to upload that to Google Drive and then set the link to be shareable. So now that you have your pattern file, let's talk about printing it. There are a lot of different ways you can print out a suit. You can either send it to a service that'll just print out the whole thing on just one big sheet of Lycra, and then you cut it out and sew it yourself. There's all like screen printing stuff, and then there's stuff about like printing the red onto red fabric and printing the blue onto blue fabric and then sewing it yourself, and a lot of different other things that are a little bit more difficult and a little bit harder. So we're going to talk about this, probably the simplest way you can do it. And that's with a service called ZentaiZone. ZentaiZone is a service. Basically what they do is they sell suits. They sell Spider-Man costumes and other different types of Lycra spandex suits. But obviously they specialize in Spider-Man because a lot of people like Spider-Man. If you straight up just want to get the Spider-Man PS4 suit, there it is. You know, you don't even have to worry about the pattern. But what we're going to talk about today is the printing and sewing custom service thing that they have. So on this page, it's just pretty simple, but I'll just go through it anyway. This is just the order page for the custom printing and sewing. So what they'll do is you send in this pattern file, and they will literally print it and sew it and make sure it will fit your measurements, and then they send it to you fully finished. In terms of like the ordering process, there's all these different options about like kung fu shoes and soles and stuff. I didn't order these because I didn't feel like I needed to add soles to my shoes, to my feet, because we're in quarantine. I'm not going outside anyway, so who really cares? But if you're going to be going to a con, you can do that, or there are ways you can attach soles to the feet pretty easily. In terms of the fabric, the default is the upgraded Lycra thick fabrics, and then for an extra $30, you can do the super Lycra. Now, I just did the default for this because I was trying to stay on a budget. From my understanding, the super Lycra is really good and really nice. Apparently, the colors look better, it's thicker, it's more comfortable. So if you have the budget, I definitely recommend this. But there's nothing wrong with going for the default. And then let's talk about these custom options, because these are really important. They add to the price a little bit, but I think and some of them totally are useless, but then some of them are really helpful. The default is a big zipper down the back. I personally wouldn't recommend this actually, because the zipper is red. There'll just be a big red line going up through the back and up through the symbol. So if you have the extra cash, I would recommend the U zipper. It's only $2 extra, and it makes getting in and out so much easier. So for the detached gloves, I thought it would be, the gloves are cut off at the wrist, but as it turns out, they're actually cut off at the elbow. But these are the gloves. I'm kind of like, I don't hate the gloves. I don't hate them, but it's kind of weird how they go all the way down and they cover up an already existing, like it goes up to my wrists. And so when you're putting on the suit, it takes a little bit of extra work to like line everything up and stuff, and I don't really like that, so I'd recommend doing the arm zipper so you can just unzip and get your hand out whenever you need to. Also, you got just less stuff. With the Faceshell and the lenses, if you really like their lenses, you can find the lenses on their site. If you like the way their lenses look and their facial looks and you have the cash, go for it. I'm going to talk about a much cheaper way to make lenses that I think look better. And then the other thing, I would recommend the mask detached, just because it's nice to have like a separate mask if you just want to wear the mask on its own. It's pretty fun. But if you're going to do the detached mask and you want to do like the Faceshell and lenses thing, definitely recommend the mask invisible zipper for the extra $2. That lets you get inside of the Faceshell and mess with it a little bit more easily without having to worry about fabric getting in the way and all that stuff. And so now that you have all these options selected and you've ideally, you've got your custom services and stuff, what you want to do is you want to have an additional note and you want to paste the Google Drive link that has your pattern file in it. So this is the checkout page. As you can see, it ended up being $89 plus $12 shipping, which is a little bit expensive. So what I would recommend is ZentaiZone has a partnership with a lot of different cosplayers. Basically, pretty much all your favorite Spider-Man cosplayers on Instagram, if you don't have any favorite ones, just look them up. Pretty much all of them are gonna have a special discount code for ZentaiZone specifically, and they'll get a cut of it, so you're helping out smaller creators, and you get a discount. I think it's 15% off. So you end up getting this really great suit for about $88, $90. So let's move on to the face shell. So a face shell, if you don't know, is used to kind of give some shape when you're wearing the mask, kind of maybe hide your lips, hide some facial features, kind of give you more of that traditional like Spider-Man shape. I personally recommend a facial because I really like the way it looks, and this was super cheap. This was like a $10 toy mask that I bought like 5 years ago. And what I did is I just kind of ripped off all the webbing here. You can see it's kind of, and I sanded it down a little bit. I painted it black just to kind of, clean it off. I got some nasty ass hot glue, but and then on the inside I ripped off everything in there, and then I glued in these little neodymium magnets. I just hot glued them in there because I can take these lenses, which these are 3D printed lenses that I heated and molded against a face shell, and then sanded and painted, and then put in this little white mesh. The reason I put those magnets in is because I've got these little washers on the inside, these little metal washers, and they just snap on. And so it snaps on over the mask like that. And it's super simple, super easy. If you take a look at here, this is I should be screen recording this, but I'm not gonna be. This is the 3D model for the lens. If you don't want to 3D print them, totally fine. You can make these out of foam, plastic, you can buy them. There's a bunch of different ways you can make these lenses. I chose to 3D print them because I have a 3D printer. So this is the file. I made it extra thin because I like the way that like Homecoming's lenses look, like kind of being almost flush with the mask. So I wanted to kind of replicate that. The problem is I don't include any space for the magnets. I don't have any space at all, which is why I ended up going with those washers. The problem with the washers is that it's not as strong of a connection, and it tends to slide around a little bit more because it's not as like snapping in as like a magnet would. So if I were you, if you're designing a lens from scratch, I would definitely leave room for a pair of magnets in here. So I heated it using a heat gun. That was very dangerous. It was probably not smart of me. I wouldn't recommend doing that unless if you're like unless if you know what you're doing with a heat gun and you're being very safe. If you're young, to have parent supervision, like that's not something I would totally recommend. It looks like you won't be able to see, but because it's mesh, if I come in close, you can totally see super well. It's not focusing, but you can see super easily. And then what you do is you take the mask that came with the ZentaiZone suit, you cut little eye holes in it, and then you put the mask on the face shell. Obviously do this while you're wearing it, and then they just snap on. I initially glued the lenses on, and that didn't end up looking very good. I'll show you a picture right now. I wasn't really a big fan of how they looked. And so then I took it off, and then it led to like this it kind of messed with the fabric a little bit. Luckily, for the most part, it gets covered by the lenses. And yeah, this is your Spider-Man mask. Full face shell. Cost me something like $10. So overall, I am incredibly satisfied with the suit. I think it turned out really great. It was a little bit difficult for certain things, like the lenses, and there were a couple different things that I would do differently. And so I would recommend you do those things. But overall, this turned out really great. ZentaiZone did a great job. The suit looks amazing. Oh my god, it looks fantastic. I'm super satisfied with it. So if you're looking to make a intermediate, great looking Spider-Man suit for relatively a decent price, ZentaiZone and their custom suit making is the way to go. Totally recommend it. And if you want any of these files, they'll be available in the description, like the pattern file and the lens files and all that stuff. This turned out really great. I'm really satisfied. Just wanted to show you guys kind of what the deal was. But thanks so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you want to see content that is relatively Spider-Man related. I don't do costumes very much, but I talk about Spider-Man a decent amount. So subscribe if you want to see similar content or whatever.
Special thanks to Bugspray55, Cassidy Bond, and Joshua Day for being spectacular fanboys on my Patreon. Your support means everything to me. Sorry this video was totally like a weird one and not my usual content. I got the Amazing Spider-Man 2 rewrite coming soon, don't worry. Remember to wash your hands, stay safe, wear a mask, Black Lives Matter, trans rights, just for Breonna Taylor. Be responsible, everybody, and I'll see you around.